Good morning, friends, wherever you might be, and welcome to today's Cichlids and Coffee. And hello, George. Hello, Hispanic Mechanic. And Joe Provenzano is here along with John Wallace doing some moderating. Thank you, John. I appreciate that. And R. Baglio. Hello, R. Baglio. Glad to see you. Hey, Denny. Glad you're here. Sound and video are good. Thank you, Denny. I appreciate that. Always good to get a sound check since you never really know. And I hope wherever you are, you're drinking out of your Cichlids and Coffee mug. Oh, that's a good cup of coffee. Okay, so, hey, Paul. Paul's here. And we had a real super early bird. Paul Bowen arrived yesterday, and he's been sitting by the computer waiting for it to start. Yeah, Paul, you were a little early, and hopefully you'll be joining in shortly. Hey, Solar King Ronnie, good to see you here. Letty C. And did I say hello to George? Yes, I did, I think. So let's let a few more folks come on. Hello, Shannon. Shannon King is here. And let a few more folks get aboard here, and we'll get going. Hey, Cat Sailor, good morning to you. And it was a fun week for me. I had I made some changes. You saw some of them covered in that video I released in the middle of the week on transferring some fish and some of the antagonism that popped up. And it's always interesting when you move cichlids around and the kind of things that come up, and also the kind of comments you get about it. Some of the advice that I received from different people on the antagonism. And hello, Vibes Aquatics. Love that name, Vibes Aquatics. Is that a YouTube channel, Vibes Aquatics? And Michael A. is just here. Just finished last week's replay. Let's play 2 today. Okay. All right. Mr. Merck, Chicago in the house. Hello, Mr. Merck. And I've been to Chicago quite a bit. Love Michigan Avenue. And Amber Key is here. Internet problems here now. Ready for some learning. Well, I hope it clears up. I know internet problems as we get into the colder months are pretty common, unfortunately. We had our first frost today. When I got up, the house across the street, their roof was completely frozen. Excuse me. So that was an early frost, maybe an early frost, not for some of you in different parts of the country. That's for sure. At any rate, when you move fish around, you're going to get in the cichlid world anyway, and in particular in the African cichlid world, you're going to get a shift in the pecking order. You're going to get some of the tank bosses asserting their position. And but it was very interesting because the fish that I moved in were larger than the fish that were already established. So it was a very tentative sort of pecking order adjustment here. But at the same time, there was some violence, and from the ones I suspected, the Phoenix back there, and also the tank boss, the living stone eye here that protects the rocks here in the corner. So I kept an eye on it, and as you know, the dragon blood was the one that was really being the most aggressive and tried to actually kill the Eureka red. And so I took the dragon blood out, and I put him in a little 5-gallon aquarium where he's currently having a time out. And the Eureka red seems to be doing okay. Other fish are picking on him. I don't know why. My theory was that he is a known jerk, and who knows? I don't know. Do fish remember things? I mean, do they have a memory about hey, you used to beat me up when I'm smaller, so I'm gonna exact some revenge on you now? But the Eureka red was everybody was sort of getting a shot in on him, but he seems to be acclimating now, and he's participating in feeding. In other words, when I feed the fish, he's right in the middle of the mix eating. It's when they're getting beaten up and they don't show up for food. And you're seeing a lot of fin damage. You know that fish is on the way out. So he does participate in feeding. I'm not sure if I can get him to come over here. He's usually in the back corner. But the fish that I moved over, for the most part, sand diver, right? And the rest of them are the Lethrinops oculatus. Surprisingly, a Lethrinops brought over. And I did mix things up in the tank, and by that what I mean is, and you know, one of the tips you hear when people talk about aggression is move the decor around. So I did a little bit of that without doing too much, and I'll show you in the tank. I took out some of the plants. I took out one of the large plants. I relocated the plants that were at the middle of the back of the tank. The leafy plants, those were at the middle center, and those have now been moved out to the edge. And I took out one of the larger flowing plants. I also took out some of the caves. I was going to take out all the caves because I didn't see them participating or using the caves too much. But then I saw the OB and I saw the Phoenix and I saw the Tetrastigma go into the cave. And I said, okay, well, I think I'll just go ahead and leave at least 3 of them in there. And I rearranged the rocks. Those rocks at the far right, I kind of moved them around. But the Livingstone, he continues to claim that as his territory. So at any rate, it was kind of a little bit of an adventure, but it's settled down to some degree. The way an African cichlid tank settles down. There's still some chases. There's still some asserting of territory. And some of the advice I heard was pretty interesting. I'll share some of it with you. Some of the tips that people gave me. Let's go ahead and officially start the live stream with the usual logo. Okay, now it feels official. So, so at any rate, some of the advice I hear, like some people tell me, and you tell me what you think about this. Some people say, add females. This is completely contrary to what I've heard in the past, because I've heard that females trigger breeding, right? They trigger their, get them into breeding dress and getting into the competition for females. But yet some people have said, look, add females of the different species, create little mini harems, and that'll settle it down. Not something I think I want to try, only because I've seen tanks with I had a tank in the past, right? I thought was all male, but a female was in there, and it was really aggressive. So, and I heard that the hormones and things of this nature. But I don't know. Have you tried that? Have you tried creating like little mini harems within an African cichlid tank, a male and three females, and have several groups like that? And I'd be interested knowing what you think. Other folks suggested that I remove all the decor, take all the decor out, so that there's nothing for the fish to claim, nothing for them to claim as territory. Now, have you heard that, and what do you think about that? Do you think that that's valid? Do you think that's something that would work? And have you tried that? Have you had an African cichlid tank that was completely bare? And did it calm down the aggression? I'd be curious to know. And I'm always learning here. Me personally, I like to have decor that breaks the line of sight, so a fish can go and take a break and hide if he needs to. Recently, I've started lighting the tank so that I have shadowed corners where a fish can go into a little bit of a darker area and be off the radar for a little bit. So that's the direction that I've been working towards. but I'm always interested in what your feedback is. So I had a lot of tips, a lot of ideas shared with me about the moves that I made. As of right now, I mean, certainly I have some fish that are asserting themselves. Look at this trout. Boy, that fish is getting beautiful. The blue and green in the body. Just a gorgeous fish. People leave him alone. He just kind of lumbers around. Interestingly enough, the Autopharynx tetrastigma, not sure if you can see him on the screen here, but has been a bit assertive. Beautiful fish. Look at the colors on this Bucochromis notitania. Just a beautiful, like a candy color. At any rate, so it's been an interesting week, and I also did some changes in the other tanks. I'll show them to you. I'm going to move the camera around. This is the South American grow out tank, and I thinned that tank out. I took out some of the larger elite cichlid plants that were in there and the large flowing ones, and left just a couple very, very light plants. And the tank has really calmed down since I took out the Nicaragua cichlids. The two Nicaragua cichlids are now out of that tank, so I have the redhead tapajos, I have the red spotted gold severums, I have the three little baby green tears in there from the blind fish keeper from Brandon. I have a couple chocolate cichlids, right? That cichlid from Mexico. And so, interestingly enough, the tank is very calm. Little bit of a redecoration in there as well. Made it very, very simple. In the 90 gallon, I moved some of the driftwood around, moved some of the rocks around, and if you look in there, if you've got a good eye and you're familiar with Nicaragua cichlids, you'll be able to see them. Yeah, they're all kind of on the edges right now. But I moved some of the driftwood around, and you can see that beautiful Jack Dempsey there is doing great. The Vieja continues to get bigger and bigger. The AC Heckleis are doing great. Pull it back a little bit. The Surimanensis are still picking on each other. I'm hoping that the Nicaragua will serve as a bit of a distraction and maybe that fill that role of that dither fish that we were talking about a while back. But you can see that tank went through some changes as well. Moved some plants and rocks around. If you remember the driftwood, Mopangi driftwood, that Zoom Ed Mopangi driftwood was all around the bubbler. Now the bubbler just has some rocks in front of it, and the driftwood's been moved over a little bit. So I love kind of decorating, moving things around just a little bit every now and then, just to get a fresh look. And of course, the tank immediately behind me . This tank here has just one fish in it, a fish that was a little bit not too aggressive in going after food, so I thought I'd leave him behind until he got a little more attitude. But that tank is basically empty, and I'm working on getting a Fusco, possibly maybe a red top Luanda, maybe a redfin borlei, maybe a couple more cichlids just to kind of finish up the collection. And I'll be putting them in there to to go ahead and go through their quarantine period, which is usually about 30 days, unless something comes up that requires medicating, things like that. So that tank for now is vacant and ready for more fish. What do you think about adding a redfin borlei and a lawanda? Is that what it's called? Lawanda? Red top lawanda? And of course a fusca. You always kind of roll the dice when you add another nimbochromis. That would give me a venusis, which this venusis is really calm. I don't know if you can see him on here. Come on, buddy. Come over here to my hand. There you go. Vinny number 3. This venusis is a very, very cool character. Doesn't chase anybody. Doesn't know he's a nimbochromis. Actually, I think the living stone eye keeps him in check. So he just lays low. That might change because, of course, as venusis get bigger, they put on a lot of bulk. And, but you know, so do living stone eye. So that living stone eye might remain the tank boss. He's not a bad tank boss, except he does control the rock area. So he kind of chases folks off from there. But he's not violent beyond that. Now, something interesting happened when I emptied out the tank, and I panicked at first. I'd forgotten about this type of worm. There's a type of worm that you see sometimes, and here's a picture of it, and I'll enlarge it. If you ever see these crawling around in your tank, don't panic. They're pretty common. They usually live in your substrate. Some people believe they might even be of some benefit in that they're consuming, detritus or waste or food that might have gotten down in your substrate. And they're just called detritus worms. And so if you see these, don't freak out. And but if you had an outbreak, if you have an outbreak of them where they seem to be everywhere, chances are the maintenance has slipped a little bit, or there's too much food. There's too much food getting into your substrate that isn't being cleaned out. So you just need to do a little bit more maintenance. Now, in my case, I had this fish wasn't accepting food, so a lot of the food was just sort of settling on the ground there, and or not eating as much as he should have been eating. And what that did is it really helped these detritus worms to blossom. And so I had them on the back wall of the tank. I had them on the filter. I had them on the Decor. And so I did a big scrape, a big clean off, big water change, a big vacuuming. And when you vacuum sand, of course, you can't shove the siphon into the sand. So you can lightly rake it, maybe with your fingers, just lightly rake the sand. And as it stirs things up, just run the siphon, the tube right above the sand, and it just scoops up everything that's been loosened up. So I did a vacuuming, I did a good scrape down, a big water change, and it seems to have gotten them all completely cleaned up and out, and under control. Yeah, so that kind of worm is not something to freak out over. I did think for just a second, I thought, oh, is this something that can attach itself to the fish? Is this going to get in my fish? Is it going to be a sort of something that gets onto the gills and chokes them out? And but it's not. It's not. I had forgotten about these. These are actually pretty harmless and actually pretty common in most aquariums. They come in with plants, with fish, things of that nature. Now there is another type of worm that sometimes gets confused or mistaken for this worm, and that is this one here called the. Let me get it closer up here. I'll enlarge it. The planaria, and this planaria worm that you see on the right is thicker, has a little bit more shape around the head, doesn't look the same on the front and back, and is a dangerous worm that is destructive to your fish. If you see something like that, you definitely need to take action, and there are certain kinds of medications and things you can add to the tank. But if you have detritus worms and you start to treat it like for planaria, you could actually upset the balance of your tank severely, and so you've got to really be sure you identify the worm correctly before you take any action. So you take a real close look at it, maybe scrape a few off and look at them very closely under a magnifying glass. Do whatever you have to do to be really sure that you have the right worm, and then treat accordingly. But again, if you see detritus worms, these flat little stringy guys, don't panic. They are very, 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 very common. So we restarted the video there. Very, very common. So that was my little adventure with worms. So let me see here. Oh, we got some more people on the stream. Very, very cool. Richard Stevenson from Akron, Ohio. Hello, Richard. T1 Dirty. I love these YouTube names. T1 Dirty. Z-Zip is here. And Richard Stevenson. Hello, sir. I'm glad you like the videos. Amber Key. And I think, Amber, I said hi to you already. Donald's Fish Vibes. And that's your YouTube. Okay, very cool. Check out his YouTube channel, Donald Fish Vibes. Anna Rafalco and John Mott. Good morning from Australia. Wow, that's awesome. Richard Hiller. Hi there. Where are you located? I'm in Cleveland. Richard, I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. Beautiful place. Relocated here from California 1 year ago, actually, almost to the day. And hey, GP. Glad you're here. Didn't think you were going to make it. And let's see. All right. So do any of you have any questions or comments? Certainly anything you want to comment or ask about, or tell me anything experience you've had with an invasive species in your tank. I know the one I hear the most about, most commonly, the one I hear about are snails. Somebody bought some plants and they didn't want snails, and now they have 300 snails. And that's what I hear about the most. You don't hear too many people talking about detritus worms, maybe because they're so sort of benign, that they don't really do much. And certainly if you get the kind of parasite type worms that attach to fish, and those can be pretty devastating. Let's see here. Hey, Triple J Aquatics is here. And yeah, the shape of the head and the eyes on that planaria worm makes him very different from that stringy line. The detritus looks almost like some kid, like you gave a 3-year-old a pencil and they just started making marks, trying to write something, right? You get these little squiggly things, and at first glance they just seem to be still. But if you stop and you really concentrate, you see that they are moving ever so slowly. They are advancing in whatever direction they're going. Mohammed Abrar Udin, I hope I said your name correctly, my friend. You have beautiful tanks. Thank you so much. I appreciate that quite a bit. And snails are awesome and good for any tank's health. Sharpies, models, and aquatics. I wish I could keep snails. I think the cichlids destroy snails. And I used to have clown loaches, and I know they love eating snails. But some of the snails out there, mystery snails, assassin snails, some of those are beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And I would like them to be part of a cleanup crew when I have a planted tank, which I promise someday I'll have as soon as I get around to it. I have the plants and I have the tank and I have the fish, and I have the people over at Higer who sent me that 8-gallon Horizon tank. Hey, when are you going to finish up with that video on the? But I do want to do a planted tank and snails. Some snails should go in there, and maybe a Cory cat. Have a little cleanup crew. Maybe a small bristle-nosed pleco, something like that. Hey, cat sailor. And yeah, John, those snails are like rabbits. You see 2 of them, and you go to bed, you wake up next day, you got 20 of them. Then you go to bed, wake up, you got 220. And a Ransham, Shannon King got some Ramshan snail. I have a lot now. Have you ever had bumblebee cichlids? Quite the characters. I haven't had bumblebees. Are bumblebees? Those are Mabuna, right? I mean, I don't necessarily keep Mabuna right now, but so no, I haven't kept those. The governor. Why no Discus? Well, Governor, funny you should ask that. And I've talked about this in prior videos. And hey, by the way, Paul, thank you so much for that super chat, my friend. Thanks for the stickers. I replaced the wife's fridge magnets with them. I hope you checked with her first. Or you might wake up with a sticker on your forehead or somewhere else. But at any rate, so this tank here. That tank is going to be a planted Discus tank. And I'm working out something with my channel sponsor, my friend James over at the Cichlids Shack, along with my friends over at Glass Cages here in Nashville. And what we're going to do is we're going to put back here where you see the 255 gallons, the backdrop, that's going to become a 180 gallon or larger. Well, between 150 to 200 probably. We're going to put a tank right there. And that's going to be the South American tank. And then that 90 gallon is going to be a Discus tank. So these are some of the plans that are percolating down the road. All of it, of course, takes time, preparation, and planning. You don't want to rush into those kind of projects. Did I miss a super chat? I got Paul. I got yours, Paul. Super chats are a way for you to support the channel, and they are very appreciated. And while I'm on the topic, I do want to let you know that if you'd like to support the channel, you can by using the Amazon link, amazon.com/shop/Ben Ochart. I have an Amazon store. You can buy things from the store, but if you buy anything on Amazon from anywhere and you've used my link to get there, you actually support the channel. It pays a little percentage to the channel. Also, if you want to pick up shirts like Garage Gang and coffee mugs and things like that, you can at my Teespring store. Use Livestream for a 10% discount at checkout. And also, I do want to thank John Wallace for becoming a Patreon. Patreon is a monthly membership that allows you to support the channel that way. And here's John. He joined at the level of membership that gets him a t-shirt. I think he could have got a t-shirt or a coffee mug. He opted for the shirt. And there he is. And he says he likes the quality and the fit. Thank you, John, for sending me that picture. Great photo in front of that amazing tank. So just some ways to support the channel. And also a shout out to the Cichlids Shack, who is a sponsor of the channel. If you're new, be sure to hit that sub button and the bell and all that good stuff, the like, and let YouTube know that something good is going on here. Alrighty. Just had to pay some bills. What made me think of all that is the projects that I have coming up. They all take time, they all take money, they all take energy and planning and things like that. But they are going to happen. They are going to happen, and it's exciting. This the Patreon memberships are going to help cover some heating and cooling in here, and some tearing out of some older cabinets, and of course your support through subscription and through super chats, things like that. All of you are really helping to really build out this fish room and make it something really special. I think I'm loving it already. I love sitting down here and hanging out, kind of like my man cave, if you will. But at any rate, if you have any questions, go ahead and ask your questions now. I am cruising the chat. You know, Governor, I had Discus before and fell in love with them, but I had a tank and a location where I couldn't put a tank that I felt was large enough for the Discus. They were putting on size, and they were actually like in a 40-gallon. And I finally ended up giving them away and then shifting into a mix of African cichlids. And of course, look where that's led me, right? So in hindsight, I could have stuck with Discus, right? But I think 90 gallons for some 3 to 5 inch Discus, a 90-gallon, and just let them live in there for a few years, see how they do. And I think that would be great. I know that the Cichlid Shack has Discus that are, they call them no pepper Discus. In other words, they don't get those black spots on their body. They stay very pure to their color. And when I visited the Cichlid Shack about a year ago, a little over a year ago, I visited the Cichlid Shack. He showed me some of these no pepper cichlids, and their colors are brilliant. Like the yellows are the purest, brightest electric yellow you've ever seen. Beautiful Marlboro reds, gorgeous blues, and no little black spots. Even if you have them in a tank with a black background or black substrate, they still keep their pure color. They don't get that pepper. So I'm looking forward to having that. And of course, cichlids are my wife's favorite tropical fish. An update on that Horizon tank that was going to go into my wife's office. We set it up and we turned the lights on, and it came through her camera when she was tutoring as just a sort of blue blur. I don't know why, but there was something going on with the way that her the camera on her computer was processing the light from the LEDs on that Horizon tank. So we decided not to put an aquarium in her office for now. I still have that Horizon tank. I'm either going to set it up here in this fish room as a planted tank, or I might just be putting it in my bedroom. I have a nightstand that's wide enough next to the bed, and I think I would enjoy having an aquarium in there. Use it as my wake up. You know, have the lights on timers so they come on right around the time I like to get up. And I think it'd be kind of nice to have a peaceful planted tank in there to wake up to. And not sure if I'll put it right next to the bed or maybe on a dresser that is on the far wall away from the bed. We'll see. We'll see how that plays out. David Cousineau? David, that's got to be a French name. Is that French? David, yes, I have had Turkis, and but never Melandis. I never had the Melandi peacocks, and I have seen pictures of both of the Melandis, and they're beautiful peacocks, and so yeah, I hope that answers your question. But yeah, very beautiful fish. Daniel comes through with a super chat. Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate that, my friend. And I'm very glad you're a fan. All right. Any other questions? Go ahead and throw them at me now. David, I remember back in the 80s, my uncle had snakeheads. Now, you see, I've seen some snakeheads with color patterns that I thought were very, very beautiful. But it looks like you thought they were really ugly. Are they illegal now? I think they're illegal in most of the United States, or I guess people were introducing them into the waterways and they're becoming invasive or something, or I'm not sure. But you don't see them around. You don't see snakeheads. Yeah, you know, George. George Fernandez says, I've yet to notice any worms in my tank. I do add reef salts at every water change. Maybe this keeps them away. I don't know. I don't know if the salts do anything to them. I do know that regular maintenance, as well as keeping your substrate clean, and I think what caused the outbreak in the tank behind me was that uneaten food was on the bottom of the tank for too long. Now, one advantage about tightly packed sand, like what you see here, this is considered a sand substrate, not as fine as maybe clay sand or even black diamond blasting sand, you know, that kind. This has a slightly larger size. I have a white aragonite, and I have black aragonite, and I also have some black Imaginarium sand from Petco. A mix, a blend. And one advantage of having a tightly packed sand substrate is that a lot of dirt and waste doesn't get down there too deep. I mean, it pretty much stays on the surface, and then if you have good water circulation, your power heads or your wave makers are suspending the waste so that it gets over to the filter intakes. I had a video a while back called "No More Vacuuming." It was just clickbait because you still need to vacuum, just maybe not as often. If you have a sand substrate and you have a good water flow, I have the output. The output of this sump, the sump output is 2,500 gallons per hour. Now that is reduced because of what you call head pressure, the hose coming up to the output. So it's probably closer to 1,800 to 2,000 gallons per hour. And then the wave maker in here is 3,500 gallons per hour, which I've dialed down a little bit to roughly about 2,000 because it was blowing the fish around too much. And it is set up on it's set up so that when the lights are out, it goes way down, maybe to about 500 gallons per hour. And then when the lights go on, it goes to full blast, or whatever I have it set as full blast. So, so at any rate, with a tightly packed substrate, you're not going to get a lot of food going too far down, but you'll still get enough waste dissolved into the sand that can support detritus worms. And I had them in a tank years and years ago that had gravel. And after I Googled it, I remembered that I had, I remember this worm. It's not something to panic over. They're not going to attach themselves and burrow into the body of the fish or suffocate them by going over the gills. So I was able to catch my breath after doing a little bit of Google research. All right. Any other questions or comments? Solar King Ronnie, definitely put a tank in the bedroom. Yeah, you know, I'm thinking that would be it would be a little bit relaxing. I used to have a 150 gallon back in California, if you remember, and it had it had an overflow box on the side. It was what they call a peninsula tank, And that overflow box, you had a water flow. I mean, I had what you call a Durso system. So it was kind of quieted down, but you could still hear the gentle flow of water all the time. And I liked it. It was very relaxing. And so I think it'll be nice. So I am leaning that way. So let's see here. Thank you, John, for encouraging people to hit that like button. Solar King Ronnie, they catch, I think, Long Island, the public throwing them in the lakes, a lot in Lake Ronkonkoma. Are you talking about the snakeheads? And I hear they're very, very aggressive too, and are quite the predator. Letty C, the purple fish is this guy here, and he is a hybrid, and I talked about that in my last video. Hybrids, the gene that goes forward in the hybrid is the jerk gene. That's the scientific name, jerk gene. And OBs, of course, dragon bloods. A lot of these hybrids are commonly included in stories about aggression. Someone once offered an OB eye biter to me, and I just I said no, no thanks. But yeah, he's a little territorial. But they all will come out if they think they're going to be fed. And usually he does stay against the back wall. They do behave differently when there's lighting. Like you see, I have a lot of lighting for the live stream, and they do behave differently when there's this kind of lighting going on. I don't know what it triggers inside them. All right. Pete, I wouldn't necessarily feed Discus cubes of fresh tuna. I wouldn't even necessarily feed them beef heart, but I have heard beef heart provides a lot of concentrated protein. But I think I'd probably stick with things like bloodworms and specially formulated Discus food. Food that is prepared and that is dry and specific for Discus. I've heard beef hearts can make quite a mess, and but there are other people out there that swear by beef hearts. They think beef hearts are the best for Discus. Noyes Media Productions. Late to the party, my son came in from the Marines last night around 2 a.m. Wow. Nice to have your son home, I'm sure. And thank him from me for his service. Sharpies, models, and aquatics say just say no to the mutt cichlids. I resent that because, I'm a mutt myself, and I'm a sort of OB. Yeah, some people hate him. I know John over at the at KC at KG Tropicals. They've had numerous discussions on that channel about the love-hate that exists in the hobby for OBs and for mixing. People who breed and sell these mutt cichlids. And there are other people out there, and to some degree, including myself, who love some of the combinations, like the Skittles OB that I have in here. I think he's a very pretty fish. It's funny because the OBs, what they sometimes refer to as the peacock OBs, the theory is that there's a little bit of Mabuna in them, and mine loves to go. That's the only fish really that is consistently using the caves in this aquarium is the OB. Speak of the devil, here he is. Come on, Skittles. Come on up here. Anyway, very pretty fish. Skittles, again, is a line-bred OB from the Cichlid Shack. And there he is right there. Hey, Skittles. I'm training them to come when I call their name. So, so I don't think I'll ever be mutt-free. I don't think I'll ever be completely mutt-free. But if the Phoenix doesn't lighten up and the living stone eye, let's see, as he gets bigger, becomes even more territorial and starts to corral all the fish into one corner, I'm not adverse or against removing them from the aquarium, because it just creates too much stress. It's just too stressful, and of course that stress leads to all kinds of other problems, disease, infections, wounds that become infected, and things of that nature. So I'm not adverse to eliminating a fish, no matter how much I like him, if I find that they are a problem. I might just be taking that Phoenix out anyway, because he's had a persistent foggy eye. And usually clean water, which I've been doing, pretty large water changes on this tank. Usually that takes care of it. But he continues to have a little bit of a foggy eye. So I might just take him out anyway and put him into a separate tank and treat with maybe a little bit of a antibiotic. Maybe see if that helps, and do like 75% water changes twice a week in a smaller tank, and see if that helps to clean up the foggy eye. And then maybe after that timeout, I can reintroduce him into the tank, and maybe that he'll have a different attitude. The fish that are currently the bosses, I mean, eventually they're going to become smaller. This Buccochromis notitania is going to be over 10 inches. A lot of these fish in here are going to be much larger than the current tank bosses, and so we'll see. Over time, it's always a work in progress with these fish. So Sean says, Ben, I got 3 new albino heckelide digging holes in the sand nonstop in their new tank. If you dim the lights a little bit in the 90-gallon, or even in the 55 back here where I have geos, it looks like a war zone, where there's just been a lot of bombing going on. It's just pits everywhere. They're constantly sifting. Now, I was under the impression that the heckelei were reclassified. They used to be geos, but were reclassified. And one of the reasons was because they don't sift sand in a constant manner the way geos normally do. They're also shaped a little bit differently. Their mouth is a bit centered, as opposed to the geos, which have a slightly lower mouth, specifically for that sifting activity. So that kind of surprises me to hear that the albinos are doing a lot of sifting like that. They are some of my favorite fish, and if they do breed, do contact me. I'll buy some of those fry off you. Been real hard to find the albino heckelei here in Nashville, and by far one of my unicorn fish, one of those fish that I have on my short list of fish I hope to add someday, including a Fusco. I love Fuscos. I love their color. The Fuscos I've had haven't been too violent, so I'd like to have a Fusco. A Linny, Nimbochromis Linny. I love the Nimbochromis. I mean, I just love that line. So anyway, interesting on their digging. Sharpies, models, and aquatics like overgrown shell dwellers. Are you talking about the digging? Yeah, Sean, send me a video. If not to see the holes they're digging, but to see the fish. I'm like obsessed with them. Somebody at the Ben O' Cichlid Facebook group has one and posts them from time to time. And so, yeah, they're just absolutely beautiful. All right. Anything else that you'd like to say or ask? Ask now or forever, or at least until next Saturday. Hold your peace. Ross Hale. Speaking of albino hecali, I have 9 of them. Can someone tell me exactly how big they get? Well, first of all, let me say that I hate you. Not really. 9 of them. That must be beautiful. Are they breeding? Are they pairing up? Man, oh man. I don't know. How big do they get? Does someone know how big they get? I would imagine, what, 4 to 7 inches, somewhere in there? I mean, can someone answer that question, how big they get? Maybe do a quick Google search. Roz says they're selling them for $49. So you want to get a group of them, you're going to be in the 150 to 200 range. Yeah. I wonder, maybe I can convince James over at the Cichlid Shack to carry a few albino hecali. James, if you're lurking and playing the live stream while cleaning your aquariums, start thinking albino hecali. David has albino red empress, another beautiful fish. Albino red empress and albino Taiwan reef. Oh my God, what a beautiful albino. New Flow 238, you know, I've never, and I don't know why. I mean, maybe I'm a little bit of a purist that way, but I've never wanted to keep other fish. And people have suggested silver dollars as that dither fish, you know, right, that we've talked about, to distract and spread aggression. But I don't think I'd ever put tiger barbs or silver dollars in with African cichlids. I'm just completely unfamiliar with that. And I don't think that they can tolerate or would be that comfortable in the high pH, super hard water that African cichlids like. So that's my 2 cents. I mean, if other people want to chime in on that, go ahead and comment in the chat or in the comments under the video after it posts to YouTube. But personally, I wouldn't do it. You know, that's just me. Okay, so Sean says that the albino hecali get 6-7 inches. And when they're that size, they must be absolutely stunning with the trailing dorsal fin and tail, those little string trailers they have. Absolutely gorgeous. The trailers actually go a little red. Shannon King, I'm listening while delivering mail. Eyes on the road. Eyes on the road. Thank you. I appreciate that. Paul. Hey, Paul. Didn't know you were here. All right. Yeah, we do. We are going through some, don't we gain an hour this weekend? Spring forward, fall back. Yeah, we gain 1 hour this weekend. So one of the funniest memes I saw was somebody said that gaining an hour in 2021 was like a bonus track on a Yoko Ono record. And you probably have to be my age to know what that means, but all right, let's see. No ditherfish, they will all perish. Yeah, Z-Zip, that's kind of my idea. A ditherfish in an African cichlid tank is basically like serving up a death sentence, right? I mean, these fish are, when they get going, when that little switch in their little fish brain flips and they have it out for a fish and they're relentless about it, forget about it. Forget about it. It's like a death sentence. Ricky De Hoyos is here. Hey, Ricky. All right. So it looks like I've used up my hour. And Now, NewFlow238 says barbs have worked out for me as school fish with my South American cichlids. Now, see, I could see that because of the water parameters, right? They're probably closer as opposed to, let's say, Africans, where you would need such a hard, high pH. All right. So I think with that, I think we will go ahead and wrap up. Now, I'm going to do a quick survey with you. I want you to comment. What topic would you like to see in the next video? I'm going to go ahead and type it in there. Go ahead and answer. What topic would you like to see in my next video? And just go ahead and comment below. And if I pick your topic, maybe I'll send you out something. How does that sound? All right. So with that in mind, I think I'll start the wrap up here. I want to thank my super chatters. I want to thank those of you who are Patreons, members of the Garage Gang. And I want to thank all of you for sitting in today, and a big shout out to my moderators and, of course, to my channel sponsor, and that is the Cichlid Shack in Tempe, Arizona. And with that being said, I think I'll go ahead and end off. Thank you, everybody. I hope to see you next Saturday. Thank you, moderators. Bye-bye.